Paradise School opened in 1910 to educate kids from first grade through high school. In 1925 or 26, it was decided there weren't enough high school kids to justify a teaching staff. High school grades ended.
And they would ride the train all the way up to Thompson Falls, about 30 miles. They'd spend the week there in school, and then they would come home on the weekends.
But it remained an elementary school for 87 years. By 2013, there were only 5 students. That was Paradise Elementary's last year.
Demanded too much attention and heat for just 5 students, so the school closed.
Community leaders thought the school too handsome, too important, too useful for it to remain vacant. They raised $50,000 and convinced the county to take the deed. The school became the Paradise Center.
And we have a little nonprofit committee, and we volunteer here. We do all the maintenance, we do the renovation, we do the exhibits.
Karen Thorson shows us a building in remarkably good condition, but efforts are underway to renovate it to meet contemporary needs like better handicapped accessibility and an elevator. This classroom is dedicated to Paradise school history.
For people who went to school here, this room is quite emotional for them. We have a list of teachers on the wall. We have a list of census of students.
There's a room dedicated to showcasing and teaching art, with community theater in the old gym. This room houses a replica of Glacial Lake, Missoula, dating back 13 to 15,000 years ago. Formed by an ice dam on the Montana-Idaho border, the lake left much of western Montana underwater.
Geologists tell us that it filled and drained 30 or more times.
Paradise is a strategic spot to learn more about this ancient lake.
We're at the confluence of the Clark Fork River and the Flathead River, and those were the 2 drainages for Glacial Lake, Missoula.
Paradise was under 1,700 feet of water.
500 cubic miles of water. Went way down the Bitterroot, way out toward Helena, and all the way to the Idaho border.
Karen says take a day trip from Paradise in any direction and you'll find remnants of Lake Missoula. Paradise history is railroad history. In the railroad room, visitors can step into the town's rich railroad past. For decades, its tie treatment plant was the town's economic base.
When the Northern Pacific began building their transcontinental line, they needed a place of a hub, if you will, for storage, for treating ties, for monitoring ties.
Betty Steelmeyer was born and raised in Paradise. Her grandparents, her dad, and his siblings came here in 1909.
Because the railroad just started hiring a lot of people, you know, so that there were a lot of jobs here.
Betty's dad worked in the tie trading plant.
My dad would go to work and buck ties all day. That was carrying the ties from the railroad cars into the stacks that they dried them in.
Railroad crews changed in Paradise.
There were 4 passenger trains a day, besides all the freight trains, and all the crews from those trains stopped in Paradise and stayed here. It was a division point. Time changed here, actually, on the railroad, the times changed.
So Mom could be working in the restaurant in one time zone, and Dad could be working in the tie treatment plant 2 blocks down the road in a different time zone, for the railroad anyway.
Remnants of the old railroad days are everywhere. This is the foundation of the old hotel, which used to house railroad workers on their way coast to coast. Betty went to school in the old schoolhouse. The World War II veteran says it was a great place to be a kid.
Well, it was Paradise. I mean, at night we'd all get out and play Run Sheep Run and all the games that kids play. The bad things I did was steal cherries off somebody's cherry tree.
When she grew up, Betty moved away.
I know a lot about this town. I left and was gone for 40 years, but I came back when we retired.
Betty's back home, back to where she began.
It's just a wonderful place to live.
In the shadow of the old school that's seeing new life in Paradise. Kevin Mackey, NBC, Montana.